unity, consciousness, our culture, our spirituality, our history. One Africa for Africans worldwide. Motherland's calling its diaspora home. Join my voice. Join my team. Join my campaign. Campaign 21 hashtag 1 million subscribers on the Pan African Daily TV YouTube. Be a volunteer. Apply now. Be the Good. Hello, karibuni, jambo. Welcome again. Like we say, Akwaba, because we're having a Ghanaian sitting here, and we want to tell him also Madasa for coming to the Pan African Daily TV today. Today is Tuesday, and we're starting again on a very current and breaking situation that has been going on the continent, just like in every part of the world. So I want to thank all of you, and I want to invite you to join this conversation today. How has your weekend been? These are things that we want to get into a little bit further. I know that temperatures are rising now. COVID is not more the hype as it used to be. Countries are opening up, particularly like Germany, where we are. Schools have been currently going on now for 2 weeks, even though they still had to put out the mask to attend classes. You can imagine under these kind of temperatures out here. Today, we had good news from the federal state government that announced that even in the coming weeks, they're working on the reforms for schools to actually be free of masks. So that is a step in the way forward. Why are we particularly talking about this situation? Because the continent of Africa has been going on like business as usual. And our guest here tonight, El Wahab, is going to tell us exactly, particularly in terms of this risk. But now, when we look at the countries in crisis, we're talking about Mali, we're talking about Central African Republic. He already treated these topics with us. And we come back to our present day, Ambazonia. If you Google or you put on Wikipedia, you're going to hear the Cameroon or Anglophone crisis. If you give it on Wikipedia, you could learn even the prehistory, how it started in the 17th century before we get here. Yes, but we're talking about in terms of a pandemic that shut down the whole world. COVID had been one of the riskiest, or I mean, a pandemic that actually shut down the world. But it never touched these conflict zones, like all the resistance, the war currently going on did not shut down. You know, it wasn't shut down. People are still being incarcerated. You know, people still being arrested. There's still gunshots. And like today is Tuesday in Bamenda today, or in Southern Cameroon, Ambazonia, it is called Country Sunday. Country Sunday because for the past 4 years, getting down to 5 years, there's been what we call the civil disobedience in the Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia, precisely. And for the past 4 years, there has been this civil disobedience every Monday, and even, you know, extending when some national event will want to appear, they will shut down the whole economy. And I think our expert here is going to, you know, tell us the consequences, even, you know, to have such a civil disobedience from civilians, right? But then when we look at the whole situation, and Ghanaians to talk about the Amazonian question today, it is very interesting for us because why? On the Pan African Daily TV, it would not be business as usual in Africa that Nigerians talk a lot about their current situations in Nigeria or their crises and challenges, or Tanzanians or Zimbabwe. No, we're building a united platform. So if a Ghanaian of origin, right, an African born in Ghanaian, and an expert is sitting here and has been advocating for the Ambazonian situation, just like in other situations, and we all know that he is the deputy ambassador for free West Guinea Papua, or West Papua Guinea movement, which is also one of the biggest agendas that we'll also be looking into it in the coming days. So, but today we want to focus on the Ambazonian question, and I would like to get back to studio to welcome Al Wahab, who is a prominent guest, particularly when it comes to political issues and conflicts and historical conflicts and issues on the continent of Africa and diaspora and even the world at large. So thank you so much, Al, for being here to actually treat this topic with us, and we respect your views and your research and your policies on what you think should be the way forward on the conflicts on the continent. So thank you so much and welcome again.
Adios. Anyway, how are you, Doctor? It's been a while.
Akwaba.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. How's everything?
No, fine. So what is it that we're going to be listening to today concerning the Ambazonian question?
Well, I mean, as you are very much aware, the public should forgive me if I attach a little bit of emotions with issue dealing with Cameroon. Because when I was a young boy, the first country I earned my first salary was an international organization, which I will not mention, but something under the UN umbrella. I got $50. The first country I worked in my life at 18 years was Cameroon. If you care to know, that's information I'm putting out there. So it's a country that is attached to my heart. It's a country I would say that being graduating into adult life, I would say that that is a country I've known outside, let's say Ghana. Leave Europe aside, but on the African continent, I think I know Cameroon pretty well. So issues regarding Cameroon is something that really, Doctor, it touches my heart. And I'm very surprised and very disturbed looking at how Cameroon, such a sweet and beautiful country, is being treated, or how the country is actually going very bad regarding the Ambazonian issue, and then also regarding the country Cameroon as a whole. Let me start by saying that one would ask the Ambazonia what even it is at all. And I think it's a collective regions, or you put together the Anglophones, the English-speaking Cameroon, coming together and put up one, let me call it a concept, that they name it or they put it like that, Ambazonia, representing more or less the English region. Let me put that in that context. That really represents itself, not just yesterday. It doesn't date back yesterday. It dates back in centuries before, or centuries gone, or in the medieval period. And that is quite very, very interesting that in the 21st century, 2021, let's say, Cameroon is at this crossroad, whereas the central government of Port Biya, central government of Yaoundé, and then in this modern world, that's the struggle, the killings, abductions, bombardments, and then people are being put in the bush. These things were seen in the days of the African Dark Ages of 1980, in the 70s, leading to the 1990, leading to the 2000 era, where most of the African countries would say that we were under siege, or we were rather imposing problems on ourselves, because there was more or less conflict all over the continent, political conflict, civil conflict, a lot of things. And then also, a lot of countries at that time, even in the 80s, were not having still any proper quote-unquote independence. But what strikes me most is that one of the few countries on the continent of Africa, out of the 54, or call it 56 countries, I'll put it 56 with St. Malina. Cameroon happens to be one among the first 3 or 4 that have seen only two presidents since independence. 1960 till today, Cameroon have seen only 2 presidents. Cameroon has not tasted any coup d'etat or military coup. So such a country, one would say that you have the most peaceful citizens out of the lot. Ghana, we tasted coup d'etats in the 80s, in the 90s, Rawlings succeeded over 23 coup d'etats within his 11 years of military regime. What about our big brother Nigeria? What about Niger? What about Benin? What about Togo? What about a lot of countries? Yet, till today, Cameroon had not seen any military coup. So if the citizen had given the country, quote unquote, a peace, where are we now? Yes, of course, we go back to history to trace the sources of this Ambazonia. And for me, when I talk about this issue, my first point and my finger goes to, I point the British. In the first place, for them to have isolated and left the Ambazonians or the Southern Cameroon English or Anglophone Cameroonians on their own feet, leaving them where they are today, resulting into the French Cameroon under the governorship, leadership, presidency of Paul Biya, unleashing pressure, killings, his military bombarding the southern Cameroonians. Indeed, I don't think the Ambazonians need war weapons. They wouldn't need the advocacy of struggling for self-determination or wanting their own country if the Cameroon had fairly shared the country's wealth, including political power, including ministerial allocation, including governorship, including whatever that you can call it. There wouldn't have been any problem that any Cameroonian, because when you talk about unity, indeed, even with this situation, go to Bepanda in Douala as we speak now, go to New Bell, go to Bonakwama, go anywhere in Douala, let the music play. Cameroonians don't know Ambazonia and they don't know who is a Francophone. But when it comes to the political spectrum, there is a divide because the division is that English, to my view, are not recognized in Cameroon when it comes to political hierarchy, when it comes to administrative hierarchy, when it comes to military, police, civil servant, public servants. And that gives birth to such a hardcore agitation that gives birth to such kind of a demand for a self-determination and then independence. Originally, the plan, it is not invoked today by the Ambazonians or the Anglophone English, Northwest, Southwest. It wasn't today. It was a treaty that had existed way back. But then historically, or the history of Cameroon has said that it wasn't even the British, it wasn't even the French. The country Cameroon in the 15th century, when Cameroon was actually the Portuguese, they saw or they found in the 15th century. Leading to that, when the Germans took over in the 1884, having Cameroon as a more or less German colony. Indeed, that was among the very few countries, Cameroon, Togo, Namibia, but especially Cameroon was the country where the Germans would have actually colonized as the only German foreign or outside territory of the world, because that was the country they wanted to be. But during the fallout, until in the 1916, during the First World War, when the Germans lost, or when they were already, the Western Allies were against them, the Germans were forced to leave Cameroon and they left Douala, or they left Cameroon in their own hands. In that, I expected that there had been a lot, and there are several instances of where we call it bilingual states. Why? It's Ontario and then Toronto, Toronto, Ontario, and then Montreal. Are they not there? The Quebec. Canada has it. Vanuatu has it. A lot of countries in the world that we cannot count them here have bilingual. However, so there hadn't been any big problem in Canada, even though there had been a referendum attempt, which never worked in 1993. So when did this Ambazonia crisis deepened? The English Anglophones or the Anglophone Cameroonian know that when you cross over from the Bakassi Peninsula, from the southern part of Nigeria, the Akwa Ibom state, coming way on the Blackbush, on the river, Oron River, entering into the Cameroon. Indeed, there was no point, in my view, that one even would say that British has to give that side to France. But then, After the 1916, when the Germans were pushed out, yes, the French and then the English were the superpowers who were on the continent of Africa. So they were given the territory, let's say, okay, take care of this side, let me take care of that side. If the English had not left the side of the South, which of course they had an agenda, because the agenda was the English and the French plan on the West Africa to block and cage the English countries. So therefore, they didn't want a country like Nigeria to have an English territory. That is their border. They didn't want that. The same strategy, they didn't want Ghana to have an English neighbor. The same strategy, they didn't want Gambia to have an English neighbor. Neither they wanted English to have a neighbor with Sierra Leone. So if you look at Nigeria, the French agreed and took Niger. Benin, which is supposed to be part of Lagos, they gave it to the French, making it a French colony. The Cameroon side, the south, the east, which is the north of Nigeria, which is the north of this Ambazonia of the southern Cameroon, the north of Nigeria. That side is purely an Anglophone. But then what was the point? Because they realized that the French and English sat down and agreed that you go to the central, and then we have already taken a lot of the West Africa, the greater part of West Africa. But the English agreed with the French that they will not go, the English will not go to the central, giving reason why we don't have one single English country in Central Africa. And then the French also agreed they will not go to the east. That was an arrangement the two of them agreed. That was the way and why the British decided to give Cameroon and allow them to be orphans, the southern Cameroon, the English, which originally nothing stopped it to have given back to Nigeria. So indeed, you can say that they would have been Nigerians, because if you go on the river to Atabon, the water, the town on the river Atabon, on the Oron River, there is nobody who speaks anything called French. Of course, they are native Nigerians who do not speak language of Kumba Boya or Bafusam, whatever. They are native Nigerians speaking Akwa Ibom state languages, and then languages in the south side, Calabar, etc. But they are Cameroonians indeed. You understand me? So if you look at it from the context, my biggest blame is that the Ambazonia, with the topic we are going to treat deeply, the Ambazonian crisis, it has been crisis because the central government of Cameroon, yes, your first president, Amadou Ahidjo, he did well. He tried to do the unification of the French and the English. Of course, at a point, yes, he was a French puppet because he lived in France, and he was at the same time a deputy in France, as they used to do, and then prime minister under French regime, and then he was given the country. However, he didn't have too much to worry the English Anglophones, the Anglophones of the Cameroonians. So there was a kind of seemingly a peace until his exit in 1982, when His Excellency Paul Biya assumed office. Even that, Cameroonians needed nothing more than their music to unite them. They needed nothing more than their football to unite them. A question of Ambazonia, when I was in Cameroon in 88, 90, I was very frequent running through back and forth. I never heard, there was nothing called uprising. You can travel all the way from Kumba to Douala, around across the Luttra province. You don't find any division. The only division you realize was that public offices, you will not go and meet an English being a director general. Even as the French will call it director adjoint, hardly would you see a Cameroonian English being a director or deputy director to a French. So this is where the agitation and the seriousness and the anger and then all these things began. Because all the way through Yaoundé and other provinces, the French provinces of the north, Garoua, Maroua, Gandere, Mundu, and all that, where Ahidjo came from. He, Paul Biya himself, is from the south. Of course, not an Anglophone, but he knows the issue of the south. Therefore, if all of you, and somebody should sit in Boya Bamenda, and he's a Bamenda, schooled in Bamenda, scholarized, having the same qualification to some extent. They speak English and French, but the French don't speak English. So if in terms of giving job opportunities or in terms of giving even directorship opportunities, if you pick a French, in all fairness, let the English be the deputy. But we had situations where police officers in the English provinces, you don't have even an English police heading a village where they are typically English or Anglophone, let's put it that way. The same thing when you go to the north, it is not different. I mean, the northwest. So therefore, the French they created the atmosphere why up to today, Cameroonians, including Doctor, have not asked themselves why Cameroon have to leave, because it was a West African state. Why did they have to chase them out by the French to join the Central African Republic? These were the Central African republics. Cameroon was West Africa, but because, as I said earlier on, that they never wanted a Cameroon or Cameroon French never wanted to be part of anything that has to do with Ghana, Nigeria, and the English in the West Africa. Therefore, they pushed them to the Central. And having succeeded in doing that, that was the beginning of the crisis, that let's unleash pressure, maltreat the people. So one will call it more or less an internal racial segregation or a kind of an apartheid system in disguise. But then the French arrogance, the French Cameroon decided and felt that we are the first citizens of the land. And of course, I blame also them, the English or the Ambazonia, that better late than never, but they started it far too late. And having started it too late, the unity, the core values, what should have united them together to fight the struggle they are doing today, it is even on a divided front. If you are divided and the French takes advantage, looking at the situation of the previous elections since 1992, when Paul Biya started to roll out his first democratic multi-party elections, how many political parties was formed at the down there? And you are talking about being what? You are talking about not having a fair share of Cameroon. So if all of you have united, all of you have backed up with one identity, with one feelings, with one tears, with one cry, with one voices, with one voice, it wouldn't have been where they are today. Right from day one of the Ambazonia African struggle, there was already a political division. The front till today is broken. So the French got the access to infiltrate, and Paul Biya cleverly got access to infiltrate. Whereas a different segment or different groups form militants, terrorists, rebels, etc., all in one catchment area. How do you struggle and win power? How do you struggle and get your own country as it is? Procedurally, we have processes. Yes, of course, when you go deep down the Ambazonia crisis, you can talk about the betrayal of the United Nations, how they betrayed Cameroon, the Anglophone, which of course it was a country on its own, agreeably. And then they backed off because there was no father that stood for the English Cameroonians. Who are the father of the French? The France. Are they sitting on the United Nations Security Council? Answer is yes. So permanently, the issue comes on board for discussions. The idea is what? Nobody speaks for Cameroon. The UK's, the British, who supposedly should be speaking for them, that there was already an existing charter that Ambazonia provinces or the southern Cameroon or the English Cameroon, it was more or less quote unquote, it was a country. So let us, in this modern world, it wouldn't be the only country, because back there in the Caribbean, how many islands, Turks and Caicos, their population is not up to 5,000, and they have their flag. Let's go back to Niue Islands of the Pacific. It's the smallest country in the world. They are just only 5,000 as a country with flag and president and prime minister and all manner of things. Barbados, what's the size of their population? They are not up to Ambazonians. What is the size of Trinidad and Tobago, Antigua and Bermuda, St. Nick's and all that? Some of them, their population is not up to 10,000. So you're talking about a huge population. If Cameroonian population is about 26 million, you have about 17 to 20% being what? Being the English. In that context, even in their own sin, they are speaking one language official called English. It is accepted somebody can live in Bamenda, graduate in Bamenda in English, not in French. So if that one is understood and agreed by the country Cameroon, what is the point of them not begin their own country, that they cannot have their own self-determination and live and run their country? Bear in mind that the Southern Cameroon, the English Cameroon, or the Anglophone, they have worked, put food on the table for the French. Any mineral resources that Cameroon has greatly is on the Anglophone side. So the struggle, the betterment, the country's income, the national income, the resources that belongs to Cameroon, quantify them, about 60 to 70% belongs to the Anglophones. So if that is the case, and they have the numbers that is capable of forming a nation, why should it travel up to this point that the people, over 60,000, have to be in exile, 850,000 being displaced, over 5,000 being killed on daily basis, and today being killed, and that. So anytime that Ambazonia comes to speak, there is a French media that will shut it down and branded them as what? As rebels, etc. But let's go back. Eritrea. In 1993, until 1993, Eritrea was part of Ethiopia. So when they decided that they wanted to be and live self-determination, they wanted their country, how was it possible that they got their independence? South Sudan, John Garang and co., the struggle, how many years? Because the whole Southern Sudan belt, a large country, that speaks, of course, in their country, in their case, even the same Arab to Arab. But in their case, there was an Arab Sudanese, and then let's say the native or the African Sudanese, let's put it that way. Over the years, who colonized or who granted independence to South Sudan? You can't say Sudan granted independence to South Sudan. It was a struggle. The struggle was that we are one people, we are united. The northern or the central government of Omar Bashir, they are not treating us as Sudanese, they are not treating us as human beings. And yet the oil comes from our side, and therefore they all came together. Of course, they had the political divisions, they have problems, and for that matter, they wanted to. They petitioned the United Nations. Yes, it took long. A lot of people died. The central government fought. But at the end of the day, at the Security Council or the United Nations General Assembly, the Sudanese spoke for themselves. Because there was no colonial master. British was long detached. Sudan itself was not under British colony at that time, because Sudan, it was Egypt that was taking care of Sudan until they gained independence in 1956, when the British handed over Sudan to Egypt to be their masters. So if Sudanese were able to come out from Egypt and granted and got their own independence, there was then a reference why the South Sudanese also wanted their country, because after all, we are all out of the bondage of the Egyptians. So we can also we speak one language, we eat one food, we have one culture, one destiny, one tradition. So we wanted our country. How was the world? Look at the involvement of the world, the money, the contributions on the UN General Assemblies, country presidents and prime minister, head of states, how they spoke, giving birth to a country, the African youngest nation, Sudanese. So why Ambazonia issue a big deal and headache for the French? Why should that be a headache for the French? That should not be the case. Namibia, until 1990, Namibia is an African country that got her independence from South Africa. Isn't it so very funny? When they branded SWAPO, Southwest African People's Organization, Sam Nujuma, and then the rest, Toivo Jai Toivo, they branded them as all what? As all rebels, etc. At the end of the day, they had one political philosophy, one identity, unified front, and pushed the agenda. Until 1990, African country, South Africa, granted independence and allowed Namibia to have their country. Eritrea had their independence from also an African country, Ethiopia. So what makes it difficult in the case of Cameroon, that we have all these examples? And when you come back to Europe, where we'll go later, we have this. There had been Yugoslavian crisis where they break away republics. All of them divided, over 26 republics divided under one umbrella called the Yugoslavia Federation. they divided. It was possible. Who has spoken at the UN General Assembly? Even with them, the Sarajevo, the Croatia, Serbia, Montenegro, etc., Dubrovnik, and all those kind of, other things that you can think of. They were all granted independence in the end. So if we have a united or a particular segment, a class of people feeling that Cameroon, we don't feel, the feel of Cameroon is no more with the Anglophone. We feel detached, and yet who goes to the UN General Assembly and speak to the Cameroonians and speak for the southern Cameroon, the Anglophones? Nobody speaks for them. But in the case of the French speaks for the French Cameroon, and making it very difficult. So if the Ambazonia wanted their independence, some of us, we've done some proposals before when we told them that you could not sit in Boya, you cannot sit in Kumba, you cannot sit in Bamenda and other places and be only trumpeting, talking. You need a strong allies. But look at how Paul Biya tricked them in the last election, and the amount whilst even fighting that you want a struggle, you want a political say, you wanted what, a referendum. How many political parties were ruled from the English province? It was our own fault or their own fault. Nevertheless, when the Cameroon, when the Ambazonians were supposed to contact the blocs on the continent, the African Union, the ECOWAS, the SADC. Don't talk about the French side, because they will not even meet them. They will not even see them. The French countries or the Central African Republic, the Union of the they will not even look at their face and not talk less of discussing anything with them. But Ambazonia did not involve. They did not initially involve too much of Africa, knowing very well that there will be a difficulty in the hands, because if you look at the French countries on the continent of Africa, Cote d'Ivoire and Senegal being the headquarters, they all sabotage your mission, the Ambazonia. Senegal even sabotage. Cote d'Ivoire have never spoken in favor of the Anglophones. Benin has never done that. Togo had never delivered any speech. Central African Republic, Bongi, they've not spoken. Brazzaville has not talked. Congo, Kinshasa, they've not spoken. Algeria, they haven't spoken. North of African French countries, Tunisia, Algeria, none of them, including Niger, Mali, Senegal, nobody has spoken. That yes, we are talking about Pan-Africanism. So if there's a brother or one of us, and there is a severity, there is a punishment, there is an apartheid, there is a segregation, there is an impunity being measured or be unleashed against them, let's stand up and then speak. There hadn't been the opportunity for them to have that floor. So the struggle that's supposed to be in the hands of the Ambazonians, Sisuku Tabe and his friend or his brother Sako, Samuel, all of them, their unity. Look at the division. That one sits in jail, Sisuku sits in jail, and then issues instructions, I've dissolved my cabinet. Yes, I'm the first president. Yes, you are the second president. One acknowledge you are not this and that. That is also the difficulty and the problem which has really frustrated the success in the progress story of the Ambazonians. Indeed, we've seen this in the Far East. We've seen that also in the Latin America. There had been a lot of Chapatista rebels in the Colombia, etc. Even within Europe, in Spain, there is what? A push for what? A country. There is a push in other parts of the world for a country. Sri Lanka, there was a push. Indonesia, there's a push. And then even West Papua, which I'm part of the struggling advocates, there's a push. Eventually, they will get there. So not in the middle of West Africa. That's a bigger folk of one part, one people. English, we are English, embedded in the stomach of a French that really doesn't see them as citizens. They don't see them as human beings. Meanwhile, His Excellency the President Paul Biya, who sits in Switzerland Intercontinental Hotel in Switzerland in Geneva, having his beautiful cabinet meeting out there, having his coffee and tea all the time. He is closer to France through the Lyon Belt. And then he tells them what's happening in Cameroon, brandishing them or saying that they are rebels, they are terrorists, they are this. So I'm saying that the Ambazonia issue is a critical issue that needs a careful political approach. It is a critical issue that needs a critical economic approach. It needs a critical diplomatic approach. But what makes it very difficult is that they don't have a representative that speaks for them. And for that matter, in my view, from diplomatic sense and diplomatic cycle, you can relate the issue of Ambazonia to the Palestine, because that is where they have been told, because superpower America speaks for Israel and nobody says anything. Therefore, they will not give Palestine independence. It is not different from Ambazonia when the French is solidly behind the French. In that case, there is a serious, you can call it, it's like the game of the orphans. The game of the orphans. The stronger one fights, the stronger one wins. No mother, no father comes to defend the other one. That is the issue. So in my view, the Ambazonians, their division is, their leadership is completely divided. I treated this, and I spoke with some of them, formally, informally, that I cannot reveal. The group were in London, to the extent that even an African country arrested them. African country arrested the leadership of Ambazonians when they are gone there to propose and push for agenda of support. That should not be a case. Therefore, the South Cameroonians, the Anglophone Cameroonians, they need nothing than a solid unity. Yes, the armed struggle, I can strongly say that it will be difficult to win armed struggle with central government of Paul Biya. It will not really work. On that note, that I always would say that the more you keep endangering your people, it is to the advantage of the French. And then also among as we speak, the same South Cameroonians or the same Ambazonians or the Anglophone, there are some that are also fighting against themselves. So how do you go to win a war with a disunited front? You never will win any war. You never would win any war. We've seen this across the continent. In 1962, before Rwanda was given independence, Rwandese fight was not a genocide in the 90s. From the one that the Rwandese were given independence in the 1962, there was already a divisionist, there was already a problem between the same Hutus and Tutsis. They started fighting. So there was an opposition from day one, giving birth gradually until the 1990 genocide that came. Is that what the Ambazonia want to replicate, or is that what they want? In your case, no, you have not been given any flag. Your flag, they shut it down. The white and blue flag, they said that no, it's not recognized anywhere. They have till today not even identified that it is an interim government or transitional government. Ambazonia front and leadership, they've not been able. They've not been able. Yes, the referendum. Paul Biya is comfortable because he knows that you cannot have a formidable stand, a formidable front, because it's using money to infiltrate even the camp. While he sits, some of them in Kondengui prisons in Yaoundé, and some sitting in New Bell in Douala. Yet he has his means and way to weave across. So if you are taking money to fight against your own justified cause, to fight against what that you deserve. So at the end of the day, how do you raise your mother, your sister, your children out there? Go and see the Akwa Ibom belt, the Niger Delta belt, the Calabar belt, the Southern belt, the struggle of Cameroonian refugees. Amazing. So sad. How would they even go back? They don't even have food to eat. They do not have food. So if you people cannot unite yourself and fight, you don't have to endanger the life of mother and father and the old population, the aged and the youth, the children and then women, because you are fighting for a cause. Of course, you have to sacrifice. All of them are sacrificing for such a cause. But you being the leadership, you cannot even say that yes, if Sissoko is in jail, Sako lead. But then today, my cabinet is different. Your cabinet is different. I don't recognize your cabinet. I've dissolved your cabinet. The other one says that I've formed. And then they have said a division as to which one is the governing council or which one it is what? A restoration council. What is the difference? Is that the restoration council, the governing council, that Pobia is not giving you access to have your own country? Indeed, he's a president who had managed to weave through the minds, and of course, being a French puppet, certainly he has no challenges. Germans will say that they escaped kind of concurrence. He hasn't got any challenge. So if he has no challenge, his opposition leader, John Frudy, look at how he treated him. So at that time, even a politician like that, if the Anglophones were solid and they said, okay, they'll support, in the end, what happened? They were rather even, they bent his home and they wanted to kill him. But of course, I understand their frustration. But the bottom line is that where is the political party then, at that time till today, that would have, as the SWAPO, that is Najuma, did in Namibia? Where is the ANC of the Southern Cameroonians? Where is it? Where is the UGCC of Ghana that we fought the independence? You don't have it. Because together we unite, together we stand. You haven't stood enough with the Ambazonian. They haven't stood enough. We've had chance to travel around the 6 continents of the world. And we've seen countries. And I'm saying that Ambazonia or the South provinces of Cameroon is more bigger than 2 countries. If it were to be in the Caribbean, it would be about 3 countries. It would be about 3 countries. So having just a small place, if an island and even archipelago can be, a country can have an own only archipelago. No island, you can't call it even it's an archipelago in my view. 5,000 people. St. Malina in the West African coast near Angola, which is part of ECOWAS. How is their size of population? They are not up to 7,000. But it's a country, quiet, who hears about them? Silently, because British is in support. Why Ambazonia issue should be a crisis of discussions today? If South Sudan, they supervised and they went into the Africans' longest 7 civil war. Longest. Very longest. Senegal, they supervised the Casamance rebels. When they wanted a self-determination for 600 years, led by a woman, Casamance rebels, we've not heard of them. Of course, they never gave any Casamance a country. Even with that one, it is not an Anglophone, Francophone affair. It's an issue of French to French. Even with that one, the French says, no, it will not work. So you should know the division and the political divide and then the superpower divide between the French and then the English. But I'm always saying that the Ambazonia issue, it is on the doorsteps of the British Crown. They caused this issue. They're supposed to be the people to help and fight and resolve and make sure that the Ambazonia demand and they deserve to have their own country. British has never. They only speak diplomatic language when other leaders of the world are speaking. Let there be peace. Let them have peace. Let's go to the drawing board. Let's go to the diplomatic round table. Let's have tea. Let's have discussion. That is the farthest extent that British had ever gone as far as Ambazonia. Because they had a certain agreement with the French that don't come to Tanzania. And French says, I will not. Don't come to Zimbabwe. French says, I will not. Don't come to Kenya. French says, I will not. Don't come to Uganda. They say, we will not. Don't come to Zambia. Don't come to Lesotho. Don't come to XYZ. Don't come to Swaziland. French agree to all. So you should know that you are fighting a very strong fight. You are not fighting with Paul Biya. You are fighting with Mitterrand. You are fighting with all the French presidents, including Macron. You are fighting with everybody. And the France knows why they will not release, they will not let Cameroon go. Because the cash cow of the French on the continent of Africa, Cameroon is the third. The cash cow of the French government, Cameroon is the third. And the greater chunk of Cameroon's wealth is from the Anglophone. So how do you expect that they will give? They will not give easy. So if you want Ambazonia and have your flag and treat it as a nation, sovereignty nation, or sovereign nation with sovereignty rights, That is not how the Ambazonia issue supposed to be treated. And for that matter, the leadership, they have not actually orchestrated and designed a well-rehearsed strategy which other countries have emulated and practiced, and at the end of the day got their independence. They haven't done that. Speech, sometimes you listen to their speech, I'm sorry, with all due respect, it is too baby-like. One is delivering speech here, the other one counters the other one. Oh God, then Pobia sits in continental Interconti in Switzerland and will be laughing at you because that is at his comfort, because your ears, you are not drumming home what the world want to hear. Because knowing that you are dealing with a fight, not with the country, you are not fighting with Cameroon, you are fighting with the superpower of France. Because France that is behind this. Any money France will give to Pobia to shut you down, he will do. So you realize that the situation on hand, the fight on hand is too big out for you to bear. But no matter how long it takes, progressively, the world had seen issues or situations more than this. Indonesia story, Sri Lanka stories, Bangladesh stories. If you go through all this, including the Korea, including the Chinese and the Japanese, including others, Vietnam and all that, they all went through a lot of hardships. At the end of the day, their story, they became victorious. They were able to achieve success. So I'm saying that Ambazonia, yes, you are seen as an orphan on the international platform. The speeches given by here or there, pockets of speeches, it is not. I'm handling a consultancy issue as an advisor in this regard, West Papua, where Benwinda, look at Benwinda. He sits in London. I think you've interviewed him before.
Yes.
As an interim president of the West Papua, which is the biggest island of the whole world with 2.5 to 3 million population. That is bigger than every island. And yet, who listens to them? But Benwinda being the only person who was able to escape. So imagine a group over 3, 4, 5 million people. Only one person had managed to escape from that country under the bondage, hostility bondage of Indonesia. And yet, look at how his people support him from home. Look at how he's managed to go to the Swiss parliament, how he's managed to go to Holland parliament. And the Dutch government is there leading the role to make sure. So if the world, the Europe, the Western Europe, and then the Western Hemisphere, countries start speaking for you, then you know that your issue is brought to the table to be cooked. And when the pot is hot, that is when people want to know what is heating it up. Ambazonia, which country, which ally, who is speaking for you? Is that the ECOWAS? Is that Ghana? Is that Nigeria? I'm yet to see. Ghana is a diplomatic hub of the West Africa. Nigeria, Abuja, is the diplomatic hub of West Africa. The leadership, I haven't felt you in the ECOWAS provinces or the ECOWAS parliament. I haven't felt the Ambazonia leadership in SADC. In the South African states, I have not felt you. The East African community, the EC, I have not felt the Ambazonia. So if you are sitting, running around Bamenda, Kumba, Boya, dancing Makosa, you will dance for long. You will not see independence for now because you are not fighting with Pobia. And don't assume or think, even in absence of Pobia, the French still, they reign. They will not let it go like that. So Ambazonia, you are more than a country. You have the resources. You have the learned people. You have what it takes to rule and have your own self-determination and have your own country. But your strategy is poor. I would say this without missing any words. Your strategy is poor. You need to go back and redesign and then reorganize, restructure, and look out for a better way to re-strategize your archives and bring back. All of you unite under one front, have one word, have one language, one destiny, and speak. And the more that you do that, you don't need to listen to only the UN. Now there are countries that are prepared to listen. Russians are there. I'm sorry. If you cannot get the Western to support you, go to the Far East. Go to Russia. Go to China. We are talking about diplomacy. We are talking about economic diplomacy as well. I have the resources. China is sitting permanently on the UN Security Council. Russia sits there. And indeed, Any place, anywhere, America, English, France, they have their interest. Russia and China, they are against. So your best strategy that I'm giving you, you can contact them. Go out there, have a discussions. They will also start speaking for you. Tell them what you have in your land. Tell them the economic advantages that they stand to gain if they fight and defend you or support you to gain your country. Let's see the members of the Security Council against the other. But if you want to treat it like the Palestinian case, then you have a long way to go. In any case, even the Palestinians under Yasser Arafat, when he was hard pressed, he has to leave because he couldn't even join the Arab League. He came to be an honorary member of the African Union, having a permanent seat in Ethiopia with the Palestinian PLO, Palestinian Liberation Organization. So where is Ambazonia have seek to seek the refuge or to join any bloc? You haven't done that anywhere. Ambazonia is not a member of any league. You're only a member within your own city, Boya, Bamenda, and that will not work. Dr. Tata, Susie, that will not work.
I hear.
You understand me? That will not work. Let me tell you, the emerging market countries now, world diplomacy, there's a paradigm shift. People don't really mind anymore. If you look at the Brazil, if you look at even the South Africa, if you look at the China, if you look at the Turkish, you look at other places, seek ye the economic interests and countries that are prepared to support. Let them hear your story. They will listen to you. Don't expect the UKs, the British, in all frankness, to listen to you because there's an agreement. There was an agreement. That is why they tricked the 1961, 1962, thereabout. They tricked the Ambazonians or they tricked the Southern Cameroon and then push out and allow the French said adios, goodbye, arrivederci. They left and then they gave the place to the French and left because they were going to the east. Look at the time when the English gave Cameroon South, the English province, they gave it to France. Look at the time of the French independence of all the West African and then the Central African Republic. You go back and it answers your question. Within a speed, soon as the British agreed this with the French, in 1960, within May, June, July, August, the French now were comfortable that now we can give every ECOWAS member French country independence. Why? How was it possible? How was it possible that Togo got the independence in 60? How was it possible Cote d'Ivoire got it in 60? How was it possible that Niger, they got it around the same time? How was it possible Mali? And look, let me give you one more historical fact. The Republic of South Sudan, the Republic of Sudan, comprised of Mali and Senegal. Was that not the case? Because there were two French, when they decided to separate because of misunderstanding, the French supervised and separated them quietly and gave each one of them because they were also French. So they moved out from the Sudanese Federation, which was called Federation or Republic of Sudan. If that one was made possible, why is the same French not dividing South Cameroon, who do not want to be part of Cameroon? Because Paul Biya is not giving them the access to live and exist as a human being, exist in their country of where they have resources and they've also worked. How is it possible? So it is a matter of diplomacy, but it has to do with how you operate on the diplomatic corridor.
Correct.
And then who your partners of the diplomatic corridors will be, and which countries that you seek your economic sources and economic partnership. Whom would you go and then unveil and reveal and give your profile? The profile will consist of the number of people that you have. The profile will consist of your agric. The profile will consist of your wealth. The profile will consist of what you have on your land. So if you sit with the Chinese and speak that yes, this is what we want to do, let's see if, quote unquote, call it a sellout, which you and I, we have a position that we African, we are selling to Chinese. But under the circumstances, if Russia should be interested in the Ambazonia struggle, France would have pulled out by now. I'm telling you honestly. If Russia was interested, because Russia now goes to Africa. They go to Africa. I was part of a group of consulting, diplomatic consulting. We took Putin to Mozambique. about a year ago, a year and a half before the COVID, 2019. We took him. Yes. Was it, or is it not, how do we call it, a Portuguese colony? But Russia is interested. They are pushing. There is neo-colonization in everything. So don't sit and be writing letters, granting speeches, giving speeches, making noise, having political campaigns, having meetings, underground meetings, beating you, they're beating you, touching you, throwing, etc. You now need a diplomatic push. When the pot becomes hot, the people will find out why the pot is hot. And for that matter, the Ambazonia issue, the diplomacy, it is just so minimal, so weak. Yes, I do understand that finance had been one of the issues, making it difficult for you to move. Yes, of course. Pobia will not allow you because you don't have any airports on your side that you can operate from. You have to come to Douala or Yaoundé. So if you are caged, what do? You operate through outside consultants to do your talk. That is why we have the lobbying group around the world. And there are a lot of lobbying groups that are interested in such matters. There are a lot of serious philanthropists who have money, who do not want to see humanity going down in vain, who do not want to see children being in such a condition, who do not want to see women struggling, who do not want to see refugees. These are the people that stands, and these are the people the world has their voice and has their ears. So they could speak for you. You need to do your research well. I will not sit here and guide you and tell you X, Y, Z. But then I believe on the background, about 3 years ago, I've spoken to some of your people, but I realized that I'm sorry, the seriousness was not there, making you or giving you some kind of a difficult situation until now. Doctor, Cameroon issue, it is a little bit of a sad story, but I'm saying that the African continent have also really disappointed herself. And I'm talking about the African Union. How and why African Union sit down idle without talking, knowing the history. Because look, historically, again, why? Sorry about that. Yes. Okay, let me give light. Yes. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Okay. It's okay. Go ahead.
Historically, ask me, and I've said it. Ghana and Cameroon, we have not seen eye to eye until football united us somehow. When Cameroon defected to go to the Central African Republic. When Ghana president, then the first president of Republic of Ghana, Dr. Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah, had a brush with Amadou Ahidjo. You know the story, Doctor? Do you want to hear?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes. The story has it that when the OAU was formed, no French president on any French country in Africa, from Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Chad, Cameroon, Gabon, Congo, name them. None of them was allowed to go to African Union meetings, assembly, starting their journey like a Yadema would fly from Accra, from Togo, from Lomé, and go to Addis Ababa. It never happened. All of them have to start their journey in France. So you take your jet, or the French will come and pick you and fly you to Paris. Abdou Diouf and Co, they sit them in Paris. Gather them and tell them that your secretaries that you are bringing them from Africa, they are not good secretaries. Kwame Nkrumah is going to speak long English, British English, Queen's English. PLO Lumumba, Patrice Lumumba is going to speak English. Other African, Pan-Africans, they are going to speak English. So don't make a word, don't alter a word. Come to Paris, we give you proper secretaries and you go with. So all of them were assembled in France, sleep in one hotel, have a good meal, have a good wine, and they give them wine jets. Put all of them inside, and they bring them to Addis, with each one of them having a secretary who is a white, taking records. So just go there, the part of African Union, OAU, at that time, but make no comments on the floor. So who are the people talking? Julius Nyerere, Kenneth Kaunda, Kwame Nkrumah, and few others. The only French was Guinea Sekuturo, who will start and speak like an African and support the English. So they told him that you go, you never will join the CFE. So at that time, in one instance, Amadou Ahidjo was late to the African Union, the OAU. He came late. Whatever reason that the French were holding him alone in France, whereas others were all delivered in Ethiopia, is yet to be answered. So Kwame Nkrumah, who was then the originator, the founder of the dreamer of the OAU, even though we don't have time, one time I will tell you why Nkrumah himself was never a chairman of the OAU. He was a founder, he was never a chairman. He was the third chairman. The time they gave him the chairmanship was when they overthrew him. So therefore, when Ahidjo came, and Nkrumah has already started delivering his speech, and Ahidjo walked in, so Nkrumah paused and said that, how can you and the assembly plan, we've all assembled, you are now coming from France, whereas we have started talking about serious business in Africa. What were you doing in France? And Nkrumah was a bit impatient on the floor, brushing the face of his fellow president. So Ahidjo was asked to go out by the French, flew him back to Paris to pick his flight and go to Cameroon. That was why Cameroon and Ghana had a brush. Until today, Cameroon and Gabon, which country is big? Which has more population? Why is Ghana embassy not in Cameroon? No. Why did Cameroon left ECOWAS? It was some of these things. Because when they come there, they're supposed to come because the chair was either in Accra or the chair, they saw the English, the Kwame Nkrumahs, the Katafala Belowas, the Nigerians and others, and then the Sierra Leoneans, they will speak, the Gambians will speak. They didn't want that. So they warned them. So Ahidjo had that record there by the French that don't go and join the English. And the story had not been different. Have you ever heard Paul Biya delivering any speech on the African Union platform before? Not even when there's a situation of Ambazonia, he's supposed to address. He never goes to African Union and speak. He wouldn't talk. And because of how the French orientated and gave them that mentality, that idea, don't speak and don't sign anything, come to Paris, let's reorganize. Let's reinterpret. Let's read through the documents. Any document that was given to the French, they haven't signed some since 1963. They have not signed it. The French countries have not signed the agreements. South Africa was signed. Namibia was signed. Ghana was signed. Other countries, the 5 League of the Mozambique, 5 League of the Portuguese, the Mozambicans, the Guinea-Bissau, the Cape Verde, the Sao Tome and Principe, all of them will sign perfectly. And the 1 League, the Spanish, Guinea Equatorial, they will sign. The French will not sign, including Morocco. They will take the document to Paris, and it never comes back. So there was a hit. And Cameroon, from that, I'm giving you the background to know that it is a baby, a cash cow baby of the France. Senegal, Dakar is the administrative hub of the French. Côte d'Ivoire is the economic forge. But if you're talking about cash cow, Cameroon comes ahead of Algeria. Because they cannot go and do that in Algeria. Morocco is a kingdom. They can't do that much. Tunisia, they use them. But when it comes to the African provinces where they're making their money, it's Brazzaville, it is Gabon, Central African Republic, and then the almighty Cameroon, Douala. Look, the Ambazonia issue, the South Cameroon, who is a French, who is an English, had destroyed even the fiber, the beauty of Cameroonian music.
Correct.
Identity of Cameroon before one hears, no African did know that Cameroon was even a bilingual state, or it was two languages or a bilingual state. Nobody knew because the Makossa didn't have a difference. Makossa didn't have a difference. And now I'm asking, feel out, ask yourself, where is even the Cameroon Makossa? Do you feel it anymore? It is completely destroyed because it has gotten to the point that Ambazonians or the South Cameroonians, they don't even have a feel of a music sung or delivered by French, vice versa. Is that not it? But before, you can sit and talk about what? Misengos. You can sit back and talk Bendeka, Grace Deka, Epe Ekum, all these guys, where are they? Sam Fantomas, where are they? Petit Pays, where are they? All of them, politics, President Yango. I don't know what's happening to that country. The country is completely broken. The country is poor, infrastructure destroyed in Cameroon, and the unity among Cameroonians, which was the core value. I've never seen a country, Ghanaians talk about Ghana hospitality. It's not true. Hospitality, Cameroon was the best. No country. Because you go to Cameroon bar, a drinking spot, where people buy tubok chantra and give it to you. C'est moi qui va payer. C'est ça ou bien? Est-ce
Oui,
que ça?
c'est ça. Yes,
C'est ça on fait au Cameroun. Somebody collects his salary at the end of the month and will not go home. Take his salary to the bar and make sure that he will borrow money to pay a taxi. C'est Cameroun ou bien? C'est Cameroun. They live united. Even with the difficulty, with the English being outcast. Yet, it was not a deepening story like today when Ambazonia even started that we want to push because we are still not being fairly treated. Why should it be now that Cameroon should go through deep broken crisis? As a fine country like that, hospitality, I'm yet to see a country that lived like that. A country that beginning 1st December up to 31st, when you're going out, put on your ID card because you can get drunk and sleep anywhere. The police will pick you the next day, you pay tax, you pay dues, or you pay your bill and go home. Where is that in Cameroon? Where is that love? It's not shown anymore. They don't dance anymore. I used to live in Aquano. You know Aquano? I used to live in Aquano. And I lived in the house of Misengo, his father's house. I had a lot of your guys be my friends. President Yango, when he was in New York, we used to catch up, we used to hang up, we used to meet. So it's a country that I know the story. And I'm saying that, yes, the crisis, the crack is not something that is going to be repaired today. Yes, indeed, politically, diplomatically, and then cultural and tradition, it won't be repaired. So if we have picked the path of wanting and to stage and want your own country, that self-determination, that you want to have your own political system, that you want to have your own presidential system, not whereby your government is branded as rebellion government, then the Ambazonia Cameroon, please, my brothers, you need to look at it back. You need to re-strategize. You need a different approach. That unity, you must unite and know the diplomatic corridors where you need to go and knock. But in terms of finances, of course, you are hard cashed, you are hard trapped. You don't have the money because Pobia blocks any access. What do you need to do? What you need to do is that look out for those organizations and then the philanthropists and countries that have ears. They will listen to you. Your strategy is what is making you do this. All the fights, all the killings, Pobia will not stop it. But the end point is that you are not fighting with Pobia, you are fighting with France. So imagine how the Ambazonia Defense Force, the ADF, what is the size? They are not up to they are not up to 1,500. So if you have an ADF, Ambazonia Defense Force, you are not up to 5,000. What weapons are they holding? Who gives you money? How do you get access even to get weapons to fight? So for me, I think the more you fight, the more you endanger your people, because the fighting will not be able to upscale. Because cleverly, Paul Biya, throughout the time, look at his generals. And this is a country that doesn't know anything called coup d'etat. This is a country that has not staged any military uprising because for them, they are all Paul Biya co-hosts. They are all in bed. All the colonels. How many of the Anglophone army or police have risen to that bar. No. So you don't have even a battalion to operate with. Therefore, you can only stay in bush. How do you stay in bush and fight? You cannot. So resolve and resort into on the political arena, strategize well and push. That will help. But to say that you are fighting until the French will say that we are fed up, that is not in the ANC time of Nelson Mandela. Because if you do that, I've heard one of you, one I won't mention the name, one of the Ambazonia leadership some times ago in UK, in London, we had a discussion. He said, well, we're able, if Nelson Mandela was able to sit in jail and became a South African president in the end, and then apartheid was broken, it doesn't matter how long it took. Yes, you are right to say that, but you've forgotten about the fact that the South Africa is a country, the blacks are more than 90%. So anyhow, you are talking about different, that was a political system. Apartheid was a system. But you are talking about different things. They didn't talk about the ANC wanted a country. No, that was not what their strategy was. They live in their country and they said that we've been segregated. The system is apartheid, is against it. We don't want that. We want to have a feel and be part of our own country, our own womb, our own motherland. That was the cause. In your case, is you want your country. You want to succeed. But don't forget that they forced the Anglophones also to sign pact in the 60s thereabout, that they will not succeed. The secession is what the Paul Biya today is using, that you can't succeed the Republic of Cameroon because all the provinces joined to be a part of the Republic of Cameroon. Indeed, at that time, the Anglophones, the Ambazonia, let me put it that way, that was not what they didn't know the country, they saw Paul Biya and Co. or the French were going to treat them. So they wanted to be part. Why not? The language was not an issue to them. Why not? They knew we had one land. Why not? They knew that we are called Cameroon. They were part. They never complained. But until they started treating them that you are an Anglophone, then they are saying that if we're Anglophone, give me my part of Anglophone, let me go with it. Should that be a difficulty? No. It shouldn't be a difficulty. But comparing it to systems like Namibia, comparing the system like Eritrea, compared to the South Sudan, and then other parts of the world that have had similar problems, the Ambazonia issue is unique. It is very unique because there is an economic reason, because there is a wealth reason, because there is a resources reason, and because there is a reason of the fact that if we allow the Anglophones to go, there will not be any food in the in the Luttra province. Douala will be hungry because after Douala, the 17 kilometers after Douala, that's where the food is coming from. So if you are cutting off the food supply, where would Douala go for the food? Yaoundé. There's nothing in Yaoundé. There's no food. So Cameroon issue, Ambazonia and South Cameroon wanted to succeed or have your own country, you need to do more. I'll suggest and I'll strongly advise Dr. Mko, please let us reduce the heat of the fight. Let us put down the arms. Yes, the world will stand in if your arms are down and then Paul Biya is still killing. Yes, it does happen. But in that case, you are being sympathized more. But when the Paul Biya is using the English propaganda, using the world propaganda, the platforms, you don't have money to pay to BBC. You cannot pay Al Jazeera. You cannot pay Fox Television. You can't pay other international CCTV channel and all that. You cannot. So what is gone out there, what is put out there is what the world is reading. So Paul Biya had created the impression on the mind of the world that there's a terrorist group that are what? Fighting. But that is not the case. You do not have the money to do that propaganda. So let the diplomacy, it is difficult, but look at for a proper model and lead through that. With that one, I believe, progressively, it should not be seen, Dr. Tata, it should not be seen that at all costs today, I'm the president of the Ambazonia, I have to get the independence and then have my country and I'll be a president. It is not the case. It is not. Others might be sacrificed by patience and time. In that case, you can now refer to the fact that Mandela waited long walk to freedom, 27 years. He was prepared to sacrifice for the others. But yours, you are not sacrificing for others. You yourself, you are fighting among yourself. Who should give you independence in that regard? So Paul Biya and the French are saying that it's a group of rebels, militants, Al-Qaeda group who wants to take the population and do this and do that and do that. So the UN will not listen to you. So let us find a better strategy and fight a justified cause, a fight. Because you have a case. And the world is aware you have a case. But nobody speaks for you because your message you are delivering is a wrong message. Let me put it that way. You are not using the right channel to address your issue and let the world understand you.
Thank you very much. I mean, nobody could say it much better. I mean, particularly from another perspective, and throwing light out there. That's the spirit of the Pan-Africanism that we're talking about. I want to get back to you. I know, yeah, maybe you want to take a break. We'll take some calls and
No.
I'm
okay.
All right,
okay.
that's fine. Good. So, what I'm looking for, you already named, like, I mean, they have to address the ECOWAS. Do you have a strategic solution that is Africa oriented? Let's just keep all this other, you know, it's
Yes.
an African solution.
Yes.
Yeah.
Doctor, we have how many blocks on the continent? The South has the Hasadak, the East, they have the East African Community. We have the Central African Republics, they have their own. And then the North African, the Arabs, they went out there to join the Arab League. Except country like Morocco, that sees that no, I'm within the African continent. So we are joining the Arab League, going to Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Qatar, etc., to sit and talk. Therefore, how do we leave Africa? So Morocco even applied to be a member of the ECOWAS because you must belong to a bloc. So we have the ECOWAS, whereas I'm saying that if today, I know the minds of Ambazonia leadership, that if granting that today they have their country, they are going to join the ECOWAS. So therefore, where should be your sleeping mat? Where do you have to go and knock? First and foremost, your neighbor, your nearest destination, where you don't need access of airport, where you can swim and cross, is Nigeria, and that is the seat of the ECOWAS. Ghana is on the ECOWAS. Cameroon, you are not on the ECOWAS, yet Gambia and Sierra Leone. And we are talking about Anglophone affair. So if it is an English affair, go to ECOWAS first. Drumhole. Again, African Union. Not all the countries, of course, the French will not contribute. I know. The Rwandese will not contribute. I know. The Congolese, they will not contribute. I know. Good number of the French countries, they will not support the agenda because their masters are watching. They don't want to have a brush with the French. But now, there is an expansion from the ECOWAS to the ACP, African, Caribbean, Pacific.
Yes.
That is 82 countries. The 82 countries, the whole 14 of the South Pacific, they've been through your issue before. The Caribbeans, they've been through your issue before. So the Caribbeans will still listen to your story. The Pacific will listen to your story. If not anything at all, there's a bilingual state of Vanuatu and others. Kiribati, Tahiti, most of them, New Caledonia, most of these countries. They've gone through that. Tonga Islands, they've gone through that. The Micronesia, Polynesia provinces, they've gone through all this. So they understand your struggle. So if you are speaking to ACP, if you are speaking to African Union, if you are speaking and knocking the door of ECOWAS, if you are making a stopover in Ghana, if you are making a stopover in Abuja, if you are making a stopover, let me put it this way. My thinking, Dr. Tato, the African solution that I'm telling you is that we have a political godfather called Sam Nujuma, who had been through this, SWAPO leader. We have President Kufuor of Ghana, who is a liberation fighter or liberal, a political African liberal, and somehow moderate Africanist. We have Thabo Mbeki. We have Mrs. Banda Malawi. We have personalities on the continent who are interested, and of course, Pierre Lumumba is also one of the heavyweights who likes to know how or who will be interested in such matters. So there should be an effort of a united front. You did interview my good friend Timmy Frank. Yes, Timmy is an advocate. Some of us, quote unquote, I don't call myself an advocate, but then I'm also a liberal. I'm there. So you need the voice of the voices. You need voices of the people. And then those who will speak, who understand your story, who have been there, and I've given you the political godfather of Namibia is Sam Nujuma. The old man can still. We have good number of them out there who can still support or talk because they know what it is to be a more or less an alien in your own country. They understand. They've been there. They've been through it worse, in a more worse case than yours. So please, the strategy is to know where to go. Use the African Union blocks. Use the blocks. Address them individually. Have a proper profile. Have a proper orchestrated, well-designed catalog presentation. Let them understand. Don't over-amplify what has not happened. Sometimes, let me address. There are videos where the Ambazonians will use that is the situation. Look at where we are dying. They are killing this. Some of the pictures came 5 years ago. You see them reactivating, showing it that is as if it happened today. I mean, when you do that, people lose interest. So they feel that it's just rather a propagandist approach instead of dealing with the realities. Don't deal with the assumptions, deal with the realities. So the realities, like the African solutions, of course, we are not solving it externally, like you said, but then at the same time, Dr. Tata, whether we like it or not, the voice must be heard on the UN Security Council. A country must push and toss the coin on the table that let's address the issue. Let's talk about the issue. Somebody wake up from the UN General Assembly and address for beyond the face. You can get a situation like that. And that one you can counter the later Zimbabwe Mugabe. He raise up his hands and address you. There are some also who are there who can still do that. So find the proper corridors and knock and let them lead. As we are doing in the case of West Papua. West Papua is gaining gains. We've gone. West Papua was received by Scottish Parliament. The English Parliament, you've seen the videos. They've spoken on it. We got English MPs who spoke more than 2 hours on the floor, telling English to intervene and go into the matter and make sure that the West Papuans are liberated. Holland had taken the matter on their own, pushing the agenda through the European Union. Who is pushing? Which country is pushing for you? So much as we are dealing the African way, let us not forget about the international community. That is the key. Because we are looking at which country becomes your ally. If today, Sisuku Tabe, if today, Samuel Ekom Sako, any of them should become a president today overnight, Pobia says, I'm tired, I've given Ambazonia, this is your country. Which country will be your first ally? I'm asking them this question. Who is your first ally? Economic ally, diplomatic ally. Which country would you appoint your first ambassador? All these things, before you go in, you must have them. And then again, let me just give you historical fact, and it's a fact. Making references to the South African struggle of the apartheid. I'm putting on records, and Ghana is aware, Nigeria is aware. At a point, Nelson Mandela, the late, Mariam Makeba, and some of even the advocates, they all used Ghana passport at a point. When they were living in Zimbabwe, when they were living in the front line, close to the front line states, some live in Zambia, they were using passport from ECOWAS. So yes, it is true that Paul Biya will frustrate you, but I can also tell you that you need a proper way to address and put your case before countries that will hold you and say that will speak for you. Because you need a nation also to make your case.
Correct.
Because if UN General Assembly says that, they will not call Sisuku unless maybe there's an invitation special for him to speak. But Paul Biya has already gripped you. So how do you move out? They will not allow you to have European. Okay, let's go. Let me hear you out.
No, it's okay. I wanted to ask in the case of now we have the uprisings also coming up. Why? No, let me not put it like a question anyway. It's
Yes.
a comment. We have movements of our brothers and sisters, powerful movements in the African American and Africans in the America, indigenous.
Yes.
In the Caribbean, you already said it. There's a powerful movement, right? Brazil, Haiti. We saw how they fought this revolution. Apart from these political bodies and these individuals that went through diplomacy, I know we are focusing really on the political and diplomatic steps, of course.
Yes.
Do you also see this movements that are coming up? Black American activists have a lot of movements that we are not even engaged, we are not connected. But now
Yes.
is the time of the diaspora and the unity of the African now. Those allies that you're talking about, couldn't that be also, the issue of numbers is also what we look at, right? The mobilization of numbers, right? So like we have Cameroonians, even not just Africans in the America. Now, why do they focus on the American politicians than the African American movement in the America?
Let me just come back to that. Is one of the issues in this regard. If you look at the issue or the story of how John Garang, who later was deceived after they united with Sudan, Umar Bashir cleverly invited him, joined the Sudan, become a vice president of Sudan. In no time than 3, 4, 5 weeks, he asked him to go to represent Sudan as a vice president of Sudan when they broke the peace. And he went to Kenya. On the way, he killed him. That sparked the war. That sparked the civil unrest again until the independence was granted. Now, making reference or giving reference to what you've made mention, let's look at Black Man's Life Matters, the George Floyd uprising. Now, the powerful tool of making noise is the social media. So, Ambazonia, they are well placed, well positioned, well put to gather the world,
Absolutely,
to gather the support, to gather the unions, to gather the blocks, to listen to them. Ambazonia, it is not like it's a diasporan against diasporan, but Cameroon is a black country. But we are talking about the severity, the punishment, and then the hardship unleashed on other brothers. So your voices must be heard. You must have advocacy. The advocacy group must be seen, must be heard out there, trumpeting in the air. And you have the tool of the internet right away in your case. The Cameroonian society, let me just say that not all the French are in support of what is going on. Not. Good number of Cameroonian French that I personally know, they are not in support of what Paul Biya of the French Cameroon is treating the Anglophone. A lot of them are not interested. So you raise an issue, you raise a platform, you'll be surprised to see a lot of Cameroonians, the diaspora, the youth, who will not think like the ancient ones who feels that, yes, it is a French country, we are the biggest or we are the dominant, therefore, to hell with you. No. So, in the case of solutions, yes, engaging the Caribbeans, engaging the platforms, engaging the civil society groups, engaging the civil organizations, engaging the NGOs that are humanitarian, engaging other individuals who are also interested in matters like this. Should we do that? Your voice, I'm thinking that the world is not aware of the Ambazonia issue. The world is not aware. The issue hasn't gone far. The world is not aware because all the international news platforms, news platforms, the central government of Cameroon suppresses it. So if they suppress it, how do you reawake? How do you, the awakening story of the Ambazonian is what I'm not feeling. Maybe I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling it. Even on the platform of Africa here, let Africans understand the story. If they are using the French against you, you can use also the English to combat and then also to counter it. So exactly. If you have the English, you have the Tanzania who would also like to see. We have the Gambians who would like to see the fifth African English country. We have Ghana who would also like to see the fifth African English country. We have Nigeria, of course. You have a whole Nigeria that recognizes genuinely that Ambazonians are Nigerians. Genuinely. Genuinely. They agree. But you are not using them. You are not asking Nigeria to come to your aid. You are not asking your brothers. A lot of the people on the south of Cameroonian belts, on Nigerian belt, they are all across the other side. I've traveled on that route several times.
Thank you. I mean, it's where would we have Al-Wahab or what is being today called like the political African encyclopedia. They call Joshua Maponga the cultural African encyclopedia, and you are the political, particularly when it has to do with diplomacy. Now, there is a critical case, that a situation that you are raising up. I mean, remember, on all of us that are watching, it is about seeking African solutions to Africa's challenges. We start at home. Of course, we would have to do business with external governments, but we want to fix it first to say, step by step, we take that. Because like you said, all these blocks, they are voices in the UN Security Council. Fine. Yes. So even going on the blocks, you already have a voice out there. Most of these countries or ECOWAS bloc, they also are doing business relationship with China. So if you already are in it, somehow it is already the step, particularly if you're black and you are not recognized as a body for you to show your face there. But I think the one important thing that you're bringing up when we see these micronations trying to not trying to own their right to self-determination and live how they want to live, there is nothing wrong with that. It's a basic human right for every human. Say, I don't feel it's like a marriage, like we're saying, and we don't feel it, that we have to go our own ways. There's no obligations that people must. Of course, we have the other opinion pool of Cameroon, like you say, Cameroon that used to be that the other Cameroonians, French-speaking Cameroon, also miss that part. Like, we really don't want to leave you go because we've enjoyed this paradise. And you remember Cameroon up till this situation in Ambazonia used to be called the small Africa. The small Africa. So you didn't even need to go to other African countries. You go to Cameroon, you have everything. My English teacher in primary school was a Ghanaian. We never even knew the difference. We had Chaldeans till today on the streets. So Cameroon was that really small Africa that you could go through and you could see Malians, Senegal, Ghana, Zimbabwe, this intermarriage culture. It's a unique, as you said, it's a unique country. Yes, but like we know the reality in the ground. So I want to throw this question. You have the situation where you've actually put it, the conflict between the leadership and when the leadership is weak and strategically, systematically organized by your opposition to break you, and they succeed. Now, have you had a case like that in the other revolutions where it started? I mean, I can imagine that, yes, they had to fall that victim. Nobody planned a situation like in the other countries where they could already see it coming. They organized themselves. This was just taken unaware, right? And so they never were ready to like, okay, we had to. But if you look at the force of how does it take? It's been 4 years and running. And even though they had no guns and no weapons and nothing, just by resistance, it is still going on. There is no success story, and it can go on. And that's why we start looking for these strategic solutions, practical solutions that will work. We're tired of the wars on the continent. We are. We want a peaceful continent. Each person goes its own way and we live like peaceful neighbors, if that would be the case. Now, do you have a concrete situation that has happened in the face of the leadership and how it could be resolved?
Let me just say that it has to do with the will, the political will. All what we are talking about, whether we like it or not, it bothers on politics. The politics will give birth to government. The government will give birth also to administration and blah, blah, blah. That is how the system works. Now, Ambazonia, one of the quickest solutions on the table, as I'll give. Right now, the 15 members of the Security Council, the chair today as we speak is Ghana, the UN Security Council. Ghana is not a permanent member among the 5, but then the 15 member states, where now you have about 4 African countries that are sitting on there as non-permanent security member. The chair of the UN Security Council today, aujourd'hui, is Ghana. So can they take advantage? Because that is where critical issues of the United Nations are being discussed.
Correct.
So can the Ambazonians take advantage of this window whilst Ghana and the next 90 days or so will still be having or be sitting at the chair of the UN Security Council? Can they push that agenda? That the topic, the issue, the question of Ambazonia is brought to bear on the table for the UN to look at it. References of the charter, the pact, the agreement, the treaty in the 1960s, when Ambazonia was already, in the centuries back, was already a country on its own. Would somebody be able to toss it and give a reference for them to look at it? Yes, France will be there, others will be there, but then you have to take advantage of the corridor now.
Yes, exactly. Excuse me, Al. The question was the division in the leadership of Ambazonia.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I was just building a point.
All right.
The division, the division, the 2 is more than even 2 or 3. All the struggling or the movements that fought for independence in their respective countries, indeed, they are human beings. They had division at a point.
Yeah.
Who says ANC didn't have divisions? ANC was divided about 2-3 at a point. SWAPO had divisions. The SPLA, or the Southern Sudan struggle, and other countries, they all had divisions. But at the end of the day, the subject matter was oneness. The subject matter is to reunite. Whoever at this point, in my view, is the president in jail or president outside, it's not the focus, should not be the focus of the Ambazonia. The focus point of the Ambazonia is a total liberation, a self-determination. Struggling must lead to something. Struggling must lead to having a country where we can call it our own. So if you have a flag that you can hoist, if you have a capital, Bamenda, that you've declared, but you don't have a presidential house that you can go and sit, you don't have a parliament, so you can't call it interim, you can't call it transition, but in effect, it's still an interim government that you are trying to create the impression that, yes, we are prepared, we have our government. So if you have your government, your Independence Day must not start with divisions. The Independence Day must not start with divisions. So if anything at all, there are cases, justified cases, reference cases that we will know, or the history tells you. All the movement across the world have had divisions. Terrorist group, rebellion, Al-Qaeda, Ansawad, Ansidin, all of them have crisis and leadership crisis. But the core value at the end of the day is what is our mission statement, and what are we seeking to attract? What we are seeking to attract is to liberate the Ambazonia or the South Cameroon or the Anglophone Cameroonians. So if that is the total will, that is the will of the people, whatever the difference of the leadership, laissez-ça tomber. Leave that one aside.
All right. Thank you. I mean, you're a political consultant, and in terms of policy, do you see a possibility where, I mean, when two people are fighting, it's just difficult for them to then say, okay, we give up now, or if there's a misunderstanding, let me just put it that way. And now camps have already built in between. So you already divide even the followers or something like that. Do you see a situation, a concrete situation where a country like Ghana or other, let me not call any name, another movement can be a mediator between two? I mean, you do that all the time.
Yeah, those are things that in the case of Ambazonia or South Cameroon or Anglophone Cameroon, those are things that nobody should even have sat or should sit them down. For them, it is an obligation for them to know where they are. It is an obligation for them to understand the kind of fight they have on their hand. Sisuku cannot, Sako cannot win a battle against Pobia, neither each of them. But to togetherness, if the two of them stand side by side, and they will all join and then energize their forces. And I'm not talking about forces as military forces or forces as in the weapons.
Yes.
But then if they energize and they re-energize their own strength, they can forge and they can push ahead. They must have a goal and they must have a target. That is what all the movements across Africa. Imagine if we had a movement that was able to fight with the West, your colonial master, and be able to win an independence from France, be able to win an independence from almighty English. How does it become difficult for just a small size of a population, about 6 million, and then we are having a justified, we're having an approach, we're having a will, we're having a destiny, and we want to have a, why should you fight? You don't fight with the enemy, you don't fight among yourselves. So be as it may, it is difficult to understand because all of them boils on the fact that Paul Biya, as I said in the earlier, they are infiltrating the camp of the Ambazonians themselves. And Africans, I'm sorry, as we are, l'argent c'est chose. Money, to some extent, is part of the reason. So you will see that, yes, there are always, there's a break, loose and break, loose and all the time. That has been an issue that the world is not so much following and not keen on the issue of Ambazonia. Because if you are to speak to leadership, ECOWAS will not sit and receive Sako and his team, cabinet. And then whilst they're in ECOWAS, Sisuku would also would tell them that I've dissolved the parliament. So there is no cabinet. So whom are they to meet? This is where the difficulty for the Ambazonia issue not being attended or not having a diplomatic recognition to that extent, because whom are they to deal with? Their blocks want to deal with one person. It is not a rebellion movement. They deal with this. No, it is not like that. They want to deal with one entity. Until they do that, it will be difficult for individuals, outsiders, the world also, because now, if I say I'm supporting Ambazonia, whom am I following? Whom am I supporting? Who is the leader? You don't have a leader. You don't have a leader. Let me tell you, 2019, me and the envoy, we have to carry Benwinda, Vanuatu foreign minister, Vanuatu ambassador to Belgium. We're about 8 that represented the government of Vanuatu at the ACP Summit, African Caribbean Pacific Summit, 2019 December, from the 2nd to 9th on the 11th. Tell me, we were united. We didn't go there as united, divided front. Meanwhile, Benwinda cannot be seen on the street anywhere in Indonesia or West Papua. His head will be off. But at the AU, African Caribbean Pacific ACP Summit, the first president to deliver a speech and ask for a liberation, independence for West Papua now was Ghana President Nana Akufo-Addo. Tanzania president spoke. Other foreign ministers, they all spoke because we presented Benewenda on the podium. On the lead, yes. And this was a document Vanuatu tabled that African, Caribbean, Pacific, the 82 member country should look at this issue. All of them spoke on the subject. It went into the ears of the African Union. Who is going to do that for Ambazonia? Because listen, this is how diplomacy works at that international level. Either you are invited, you cannot just go there, or a country takes you along. So if it is Sisuku, Tabe, or if it is Samuel Ikom, Saku, one of them cannot have less an invitation to come and attend African Union Summit because he has not been invited. So he wouldn't have access to the chamber, neither would he have access to sit. But a country like Ghana, a country like Burkina Faso, a country like Sierra Leone, any country can invite you and go with you as a member of their delegation. Correct. Because that country will table your issue. That is how it is worked. And that is how it is done at the diplomatic level, at that higher level. So if you don't have access of invitation, a country must invite you as an honorary guest into the chamber. So whom or which country are they prepared? Have they contacted that, look, when the next African Union General Assembly, we want to state and make a case. So the foreign ministers of the respective countries will already table the subject for the president, the head of state, to deal with it. Dr. Susie, do you understand the system, how the mechanism works? There is always a foreign ministers meeting before the grand one, which will comprise the head of state and the presidents. At that time, the foreign minister would have worked on the documents. What are the topics, issues, diplomacy? The economic foreign, the finance ministers will deal with the finance. The trade will deal with the trade. All of them brings up. So by the time the presidents come to sit down, their ministers have worked on the issue. So from the foreign ministry desk, the foreign ministers assembly, the forum of the foreign ministers, they would have captioned the topic of Ambazonia issue for the presidents to treat it. They cannot jump it. They cannot jump it. So who stands there and who takes them into the chamber? Because Paul Biya is there. Paul Biya will say that there's only one Cameroonian president here. I don't recognize any Ambazonia president on the land of Cameroon. Therefore, a country, Ghana, will raise up his hand and say, no, I have a visitor on the chamber, and then we are speaking on behalf of this. We are raising a subject. These are the clever, intelligent, diplomatic way where their voices will be heard on the block. But to sit in the farms, in the bush, on the creek, on the rivers of Orong, on the rivers of Atabo Nyange, you are swimming around the Nyange bush and you want your voice to be heard, that will be a very difficult thing to go through. And I'm saying that they must re-strategize. They should put down the ego, the arrogance. They have to lower the arrogance and do one unified, one justice, one thing that will bring them together so that their men, their women and children that are out of the river, who are out there, those in the bush who cannot come home and sleep, those who cannot go to the French province, and they cannot also go to their homes. People are living in the Ambazonia region for more than 3 years in the forest. That is not where they are born to live. They are not born to live with animals. They are not born there to sleep on trees. No. So let's find a proper way and then bring back your people. Let us support and find a way to deal with the issue. Diplomacy, political, lower and limit down the aggression, if in terms or in case of call it military approach. It's not helping, because if you are divided, one will leak the information to the other because I have to sabotage you and that you will not win.
Absolutely.
That is the issue. That is the issue. So at the moment, we can say that Dr. Paul Biya is very comfortable because he's fighting with a loose battle. And then even with the two leadership divided, there is a militants. There are militant groups also in the bush. Whom are they fighting for? Are they also fighting for Ambazonia? Yes. But who is their leader? The militants have also been divided. They don't know whom they're supporting because you have two cabinets. How do you have two cabinets and you have one agenda and you want to take your own country? Who does that? So right from the day you're already fighting, you are divided. Like some of the African countries' independence, from the one that they were given independence, there was already an opposition. a lot of, a lot of African countries, they had opposition on day one when they were given independence. After swearing in, they had opposition. So the government didn't last.
Okay.
Is that what the Ambazonians are doing?
No. Thank you. Thank you. I mean, we're still on this topic. It was very necessary because, like we say, when we start dealing with topics like this and looking for solutions, we want to treat each case uniquely and look for it. From what I noticed, there are very clear points that you said. I mean, to fight. We're not saying fighting each other. I mean, we're going to talk about the agenda of how do we fight each other, even like brothers and sisters. That's another case, you know, and another topic in that direction. But today we're talking about a conflict that has been and thousands of lives have been lost. A conflict that has changed the dynamic, the paradigm of a people that used to be united. You said it all, and there's no feeling again, and it's difficult. You can't even feel for the spirit of unity when your houses are burnt, your grandmothers and your children are being killed on daily basis, or you know, the battle is just there. People are not, you know, the trauma even. And so but on the Pan-African Daily TV, we're not just talking, we're not debating on who is right, who is wrong. We're looking for simple, practical solutions. And you've said something that I'm still looking to see how this mediation can work, how we can involve. But I think those are things that, like, I know you, and from your consultancy, there's some things that we're not going to actually speak it out here, but you as is the spokesperson, I've seen a lot of these conflicts that you've actually put on the rail, particularly the West Papua. Where are we now at it? We ought to have had a special with Raki, and he wanted to bring Tony Bender on the show, and I think something went wrong, but we're still planning to get that commission again on. So, but what I've noticed is, like you're saying, the main core problem is the dysfunctioning between the leadership of the Ambazonia. Yes. And I think that's the main focus, that we should put out a strategy, or we need solutions. I mean, I'm talking to all the viewers, and I know that the Ambazonians that are watching us in their numbers, and they would keep sharing this video. We throw out this challenge to people that we need a liberation. We are resisting, we are suffering, but we don't need to stay 27 years in prison like Mandela did. Who does that now? No. Yeah, it is very easy. We have our brothers in the Americas that are well knowledge and they're well connected even to their systems. And so I cannot leave from Cameroon and go into the American Parliament. Why don't I go through my brothers in America? Because they will fix it. Now I want to go to Caribbean. I have to meet the APC, like you said. So these solutions are all things that I've noted, and I think we would have to walk, or we throw the survey out there and see the response, or even put out a petition somehow. Do you think this can work? I mean, like, just petition the common Ambazonians and to talk about what is the way forward, how do we see, and then the leaders that are willing, because I think it's not every leader that also wants to stay apart. Of course, I think the leadership is also tired and say, we need unity. It's been drumming, but probably they still need a third voice, a facilitator, you know, a mediator to just put everything into order, and then the flag goes on. But if you look at 4 years now, what do you think the next steps would be? I mean, even without a concrete solution, it could go on for like that, right?
Yes. From government's perspective, I'm referring to on the part of the Cameroonian government to against, let me say, Cameroonian government against the Ambazonian struggle. For them, they feel comfortable. Pobia feels
Yes.
comfortable because the comfortability here is that if a country raises, Cameroon now, they always raise their security, light and their security bar. Now, every time Pobia has the access to raise this country's security bar to the red zone. Sometimes they lower down to the amber, to the yellow, and go, they've never come green. So if the country is saying that for the past 8 years or the past 4 years, I'm fighting rebels, I'm fighting terrorists, it's a justification why my economy is not functioning. But indeed, it's already not functioning. So he will use access and where to divert the funds, the money of Cameroon. Pobia is saying that I can't do infrastructure project at the southern Cameroon, the English provinces, because you are fighting, you are the one that is sucking the country's budget. You see?
Absolutely.
Yes. So he says that I'm allocating 45% of the national budget to fight criminals in the bush of Ambazonia. So that is the lazy way of economic presentation at the Parliament of Cameroon by any Cameroonian finance minister. Therefore, the Ambazonians, as I would say that if you are not prepared, looking for a lasting solution, which will come in a very difficult way, a hard way. But like I said, you made mention of petition. I haven't seen the petitions that you'll be writing, sending here petition. The petition must be backed by a walk. The work must be backed by a talk, not just a paper. The petition goes through secretaries. Sometimes the secretaries will not deliver where it's supposed to be because somebody is also working out there. Do you think there is a minister or there is a diplomat who sits at the African Union who is having a French Cameroonian quote-unquote secretary who for whichever reason is anti-Ambazonia. And then there's a case, there is a petition from Ambazonia to be given to her ambassador or his ambassador. That letter will not go. So what it has to be, or what we need to do under the circumstances is that they must map a strategy where they will have a petition, a well cleverly constructed petition, properly designed, sanitized, that they will look out for people, or they will look out for government, or they will look out for countries that are prepared to go through and listen and read through, edit, and then be prepared to deal with that petition and put it where it's supposed to be. If your petition, there are millions of petitions that are being put out there across, even among countries to countries. There are petitions which against trade or for trade or etc. Inter-countries, they have second kind of petitions, so many of them. But in the case of Ambazonia, it's a very clear, very, very, very interesting case that even when given the good emphasis, this should not be a case that should be so silent on the diplomatic corridors of the African Union or even the ECOWAS here. So the petitions is very needed, but where do you give the petitions? Look, School of
I'm sorry, Al.
Yes.
The petition I was talking about is a petition of the voice of the people, the common people, to say
Yes.
if these leaderships could not, we've seen cases like that, if this leadership could not come together to resolve, right? Because I think the people have to make a choice. What is it that we want? If the leaderships were not, and then there has to be some kind of, when I say petition, like it's a way amongst them to say, well, yes, we will have to form maybe a neutral body or something like that.
You see, Doctor, let's look at it in this context. There are so many out there like you. You can put up a platform, and that platform will be, let's say, a talking advocate group. That platform will be a pushing group, civil society. You can design, you can create. But
no, we're creating a special program on the Pan-African Daily TV for
yes,
these solutions for conflict. And you know, you are our correspondent for that. And we're going to be treating these things as they go. Because
yes,
I think somehow there has to be some kind of responsibility apart from just people that are heading some things. There have to be
Yeah.
alternatives.
Yes.
Sorry.
Bear in mind, somebody will be in Tanzania, in Arusha, and the person is an advocate who is much deep concerned about the issue of Ambazonia, belonging to a platform or belonging to a group that is pushing for the free Ambazonia or independence for Ambazonia now. However, that person is not a national of Ambazonia land. You can sit back and speak and talk as an outsider, but who has to table the real concern? What we are looking for is not just ordinarily groups cannot just tell the UN, go and give independence to Ambazonia people.
Correct. That's understood.
Yes, the people who push this agenda are the, sorry about that. Take water, my dear. Cameroon matters go choke.
Thank you.
before I used to speak very good Creole. I used to speak Creole well, but now it's just gone bad. Anyway, you see, so they will be able to support from wherever, American diaspora, all over. But the point is that you hit the head of the nail. Who has to do that? It is still the leadership that has to. All our support should be given to the leadership. That is the direction, Dr. Tata. And then the leadership will now lead, because at the end of the day, I will go out there. Timmy Frank will stand, Pierre Lumumba, Dr. Arikana. Everybody will sit, yes, in your corridor and speak on the subject. It is still an adding our voices. But the very people who instrumentally, diplomatically, politically have to table their own concerns, at the end of the day, whatever that I say doesn't matter to Paul Biya. But when Sissoko speaks, he feels the heat. When Sako speaks, he feels the heat. So let the world give the support. Let us build a consensus. Let us build a stronger forum. Let us redesign the diaspora of South Cameroon. Let them all come together. You have to exert the pressure and the energy on the leadership and ask them to change their ways. Either than that, there should be a reawakening or rebirth of a new leadership.
That's exactly the point I was saying. Yes.
Of course, there should be a rebirth of a new leadership. And let that new leadership adopt a strategy, in my view, not only with the arms. I'm telling you, with the arms at this point will be difficult, because the arms have to be refueled. It has to be refilled. The arms has to be backed by cash. Who is raising? Where do they get their money from? I don't think the diasporans, with their little that they are supporting, some are saying, I know, they are sending money, £1,000, £2,000. Even the money, the leadership were fighting over the monies. They were fighting over the monies. When some of your leadership traveled to UK, when some traveled to Abuja, some travels to other places, they were fighting who has to sleep in a 5-star hotel and the others who have to sleep in a 3-star hotel. When you do a movement or a struggle like that, hardly do you achieve results. So I'm saying that if today's leadership cannot resolve issues among themselves, it is an indication that they cannot rule a nation. But if they can rule a nation, let them unite. If they will not, please, leadership, it is supposed not to be only to build around two different cabinets who are in disagreement, who do not understand each other. Rather, there could be a third force. But the third force must not be a third force of arms carrying or military force, but rather a diplomatic force, which you now galvanize. The support from all left and right, all over the world. And I'm saying that you have the ACP, African Union, all the blocs, the Caribbean. They have a lot of Caribbean platforms, advocate groups that are pro-African, that are pro issues like that, liberation, struggle, etc. Black America, they have so many of them. The Black American Congress caucuses, They haven't approached them. They haven't approached them. So if they have approached the Black American Congress caucuses, what about the larger community of the world? This is not a contest between a white and a black. This is a contest between our own inland, Cameroon to Cameroon. So that is where the difference is. If you think you are talking and Denmark should come in, Norway should come in, etc., Norway can make a speech. But at the end of the day, it's we among ourselves. Pobia says that, no, you're a rebel. I'm saying that, no, I want my country. So we want our country. Let us unite and fight for our country. We should not fight among ourselves. So unity in this regard is what you need, so that any outsider with his energy idea can also come in to support. All of us would like to support, because we feel that the case is so needed, so needful, that they must be liberated.
Yes.
Because there are a lot of countries that are just less. Haiti, what is the size of Haiti? What is the size of St. Nates? What is the size of a Dominican Republic? Smaller nations that are not having population of even 800 or 80,000. So if 80,000 can form a country, if 12,000 people can form a country, if 3,500 is a country, if 12,000, 10,000 is a country, if Vanuatu, the whole country with everybody, 90 islands, they are only 300,000, and it's a country, how much more a population that runs into 5 or 6 million, and you cannot unite yourself, and you have one language called English, you have a history that says that you were a country before, or you're supposed to have your country before. You have a history, you have a treaty that tells you where you came from. Yes, you didn't want it this way, but this is how Paul Biya wanted it, and therefore you want to succeed. But use a proper strategy and succeed, and have your own republic or have your own independent state and be liberated. If not, pushing your women and children in the bush to suffer, then in my view, my suggestion was that let's put down arms, let us all come back home, let's raise your hands, and let's say that, Paul Biya, we are back to Cameroon. Are we going back? Yes, let me be a school teacher only in the English province. My salary is less than the same teacher of the same degree in English French province. And then maybe another generation will start the struggle. But as far as we are all concerned, the strategy being adopted today, I'm saying it authoritatively, without any fears, without any favor, without any reservation, it will be difficult for us to win the battle if the leadership do not change their ways.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Al. Yep. Good. So planning. Which other country we have next on diplomacy with you? I mean, Nigeria and these fractions. When do you think we can treat that on diplomacy? Please. I just want to set the date. Nature is watching.
I know when you get me on the spot. You only use the public against me.
Of course.
You're too bad. You're too bad. Tell me whenever. Give me an advance notice, and I think I'll be there. That shouldn't be a problem. Give me an advance notice, and we'll treat the topic. Yeah.
Thank you very much. On another note, of course, we still carry on the solution for the Amazonian question forward into another level. Thank you so very much, Al. You're a precious diamond when it comes to diplomacy on political issues on the continent, particularly wars and solutions forward. Thank you again, and we see us very soon. Thank you.
My pleasure. Anytime.
Bye. Good night.
Anytime I'm available. Take care of yourself.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
And thank you, family, and thank you. When I say thank you because you coming up and in the numbers to put your voice. That's the Pan-African spirit that we're talking about. The Ambazonian question is actually a question that needs immediate solutions. This is the youngest conflict now, but we mustn't leave it escalate. Yes, the Ambazonians are doing all they can in their struggle, but they can't fight or they can liberate themselves without the support of the entire Africans worldwide. We are for the spirit of a one Africa. And even fragmenting Africa, people will still say, but that's not the Pan-African we want. We want a united Africa. But we should also be aware of the fact that we have internal conflicts that we cannot just roll out the carpet and get a one Africa now. So this internal conflict, we have to deal with them, clean our house, and then we take it up to the next level. It is a simple and realistic than creating illusions that will not work. So I'm very grateful that you all came out and you listened. You have actually learned, but you can still get more info. Like I said, if you go even to Wikipedia, this is not something that you just find or like people just talk about it or people just agitating. No, go to Wikipedia and put on Anglophone crisis. You're going to read even the pre-ancient history and the name and the original and what is actually current today. So thank you so very much. Tomorrow we're going to go down to Ethiopia. Ethiopia has been one of the challenges that we haven't actually put an eye on it because for so long we haven't had an expert that could tell us about the Nile region. Ethiopia is so rich historically, and we hear all this. The AU headquarters is in Addis Ababa, is in Ethiopia. You know, the OAU was from there. We hear about, you know, even the only country, one of the only on the continent that was never defeated. You know, we know about the Battle of the Adwa, how they beat, I mean, they beat and wiped them out. I mean, the Italians, right? And so Ethiopia is unique. But we want to deal on a topic of the River Nile. The River Nile is one of the substance that King Maponga talked about, water and the essence of water to the continent of Africa. But in this perspective, our guest tomorrow is really going to educate us on the importance of River Nile to Africa and even beyond. And why is Africa not paying attention? When we talk about River Nile, I mean, all of us should go down now tonight and just research and bring out our questions and our comments. And we see the potentials and the opportunities that even, I mean, foreign, we know it, we know everything. They've been benefiting. We're not talking about the dam, we're talking about the River Nile, right? And so Brother Michael, is called Mikhail, is going to treat this topic from his perspective as a political analyst, a journalist, an activist, an influencer, and has been on this question and this situation for a damn long time. He is loved and followed by Ethiopians, but he is in the diaspora and has been an activist for quite a long time. I mean, it's also very important to get this voice of Ethiopia because the Ethiopians, as we know, most of them, they speak Amharic, and Amharic, it is difficult to really get somebody that, you know, could really give us a view. Yes, and then we'll be moving on to other questions as usual. But I want to bring you back to this question of Ambazonia. We're going to get another woman again, but this time we're not talking about the political situation. We're talking about the motherhood in the liberation of Africa. And we're going to use a strategic mothers who are freedom fighters. I'm talking about grandmothers. I'm not just talking about the young mothers. Yeah. And they call in my dialect or in Cameroon, the Takambangs. We want to use this case study of how an African woman, not only woman, mothers have been the epitomes of the revolution of Africa till day. But nobody is talking about it. Most of the time, that's why we see some of this leadership. I say it's because it's patriarchy. It's just because it's the men. And who would say, okay, of course, in a good sense, hey, queens, stay behind. We the men, we have to champion it. But it is not as if they're the only ones that are doing that job. So we're going to have a prominent figure in the name of Dr. like Asantewa on Friday, and she's going to use this case study of the motherhood in the liberation of the Africa since in the centuries before even our existence until today, but nobody's talking about this movement. So Friday is going to be that, but like I said, tomorrow Wednesday we're talking on Ethiopia, and then we follow up the rest of the programs. If you're here for the first time, make sure you join our campaign 21, and it only means click and subscribe and share the link. And I want to thank a lot of you that have contributed. Today has really been one of the richest programs that we've had, and we've seen some currencies of people actually, you know, contributing. Even though Kofi came late to moderate, um, Chroma key is acting. Even though Kofi came late to moderate the chatting and thank people, but I bring you warm greetings from Patrick Kasserine and from Naisha Melkon, who actually are, and Tumi Tata is here on the technique with us. And we see our our studio has been acting a little bit, yeah. So thank you, family, for sharing your concerns on this platform again. And we have a lot coming up on the Pan African Daily TV. So stay in touch. We see ourselves tomorrow, same time on River Nile and Ethiopia. Bye bye. Good night.